Hey everyone, it's me, Dr. Whimsy, and today we're talking about the best diet for you if you're trying to reduce your risk for coronary artery disease or type 2 diabetes. And the reason I'm talking about this is because last month we had what I thought was a pretty cool conversation about how to reduce coronary artery disease. A couple of things we do know. We know that coronary artery disease is one of the leading causes of death in the United States, that Americans definitely have a higher risk for coronary artery disease than we would see in less affluent societies. And we think that coronary artery disease is related to not only diet, but lifestyle choices. And we know that Americans are also at risk more than the populations we would see again in less developed countries for type 2 diabetes. So those are the two main health challenges that we see. Americans are at greater risk than, say, people who live in a remote area of, say, the third world, where they're more physically active, the food may be less processed, and they may be consuming less of it. This month I wanted to focus mostly on type 2 diabetes, and I wanted to bring it around to the conversation of what really is the best diet for the human body. We know that diabetes type 2, which usually develops later in life, is for the most part a health condition that can be greatly managed by diet. We also know that type 2 diabetes can be prevented with lifestyle choices like diet and exercise. If we're looking at coronary artery disease, diabetes is one of the risk factors for developing coronary artery disease, and obesity is a risk factor for developing type 2 diabetes. And so we see a relationship between these two conditions. The development of coronary artery disease, which is a narrowing and a disease process taking place in the arteries that bring nutrition to the heart. That is coronary artery disease. We see a relationship between that and diabetes, which is the body's, in a type 2 diabetes, which is the tissue, our body's tissue is not responding to insulin, or it's what we call insulin resistance. So what is this triad we're seeing in Americans? We're seeing being overweight. That extra 20 pounds is, for some people, that's the beginning of a problem. So weight is one of the risk factors for not only, it's the beginning of being at risk not only for coronary artery disease, but type 2 diabetes. So that is the triad: overweight, blood sugar dysregulation, possibly we'll see hypertension in this individual, abdominal belly fat, and hyperlipidemia, increase in blood cholesterol, and elevated triglycerides. Now, when you get a symptom picture like that in an adult, that's also been called metabolic syndrome. It's where we will see those types of conditions all coming together in the individual. I would add to that digestive upset, gas, bloating, upset stomach. I see a lot of acid reflux in this population as well. So what is the diet that I'm going to put somebody on who presents like that? If you've been watching this video, we try to keep things simple. And that is, I put people on a predominantly plant-based or vegan diet. It's not 100% vegan to start because it's a process and not everyone is going to be 100% vegan. But really, if we can get somebody on a whole foods, plant-based diet as the base of their diet, we're doing pretty good for ourselves, with at least 50 to 55% of the food being consumed in season and raw, minimally processed. I'm a big fan of Dr. Dean Ornish. He was one of the first doctors to do clinical studies on reversing coronary artery disease with a plant-based diet. Caldwell Esselstyn also has done research on that. But we see people like Joel Fuhrman, who's a nutritionist and a naturopath and a medical doctor. He has done research on diabetes, reversing diabetes with a predominantly plant-based diet. And we think the reason why whole foods, predominantly plant-based whole foods, is such a good diet for people who are at risk for type 2 diabetes is because it's high in fiber. And so a high fiber diet tends to have a low glycemic load, low glycemic index, and so we're not going to see spikes in blood sugar in anybody who's eating a diet that's predominantly fresh fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, whole grains like brown rice, quinoa, millet, kasha. I'm not a fan of gluten. I've stopped consuming gluten myself, and that's because I just see too much digestive upset, too much inflammation in the gut. I also see a condition quite a bit called leaky gut, where we really start to see a breakdown in the health of the lining of the digestive tract. So that is how I personally treat coronary artery people at risk for coronary artery disease and people who are at risk for type 2 diabetes, is I start with the diet. And as I mentioned, a person doesn't have to be 100% plant-based. I think people can do remarkably well if they're 90% whole foods plant-based, with about 10% of their diet being made up of egg whites, cold water fish like salmon, sardines, anchovies, trout, cod. That can be a small part of the animal product consumed. Low-fat cottage cheese, low-fat yogurt without the sugar in it. You can chop up some fruit and put it in, but we really don't want to have anything that's added sugar. I like to personally wake up in the morning, I'll have 3 heaping tablespoons of some goat's yogurt, and I'll put that in my morning smoothie. I also put in my morning smoothie 3 to 4 different servings of various different fruits like berries, bananas, peach, and I'll put in some greens powder. I like Orac greens because it's affordable and it's a good quality product, and that'll give me some extra greens. You can also throw in some spinach, kale into the smoothie as well. That is really how I like to start my breakfast, with that nice nutrient-dense smoothie. Like I said, I'll put in 3 heaping tablespoons of some goat's yogurt into that smoothie. That gives me a nice start to my morning with some good probiotics, and I get about 10 grams of protein from the goat's yogurt. And I like to have a little bit of non-fat personally, once or twice a day, whether it's in my morning coffee or a little bit of low-fat, non-fat cottage cheese. The rest of my diet is really extremely clean. Brown rice, black beans, steamed vegetables or salad, plenty of nuts and seeds, whether roasted or raw, soaked to make them easy to digest. The good news is if you're eating this way and if you're making things from scratch, you can cook it in large portions and then just, or large batches, and then portion it out throughout the week. I like to make a big salad mix, keep it in the refrigerator, and I like to also graze on that throughout the week. So that's how I am staving off coronary artery disease, obesity, and diabetes in my family. And I've also found by removing gluten that it's done a lot to improve my digestive health. All right, so that wraps up this quick video about the best diet for the prevention of obesity and diabetes. Just remember again, the GBOMs, or the FUGBOMs if you like fish. That's fish, greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, nuts, and seeds. If you eat like that, you're going to be doing pretty great for yourself. All right, I want to thank you for watching this quick video of Broke Aristocrats. My name is Dr. Whimsy Anderson. I'm a naturopathic doctor, and I teach people how to stay healthy and live the good life without breaking the bank. So thanks for watching us, and a special shout out to Wendy Keegan. I got your letter, and I very much enjoyed receiving it, and I hope to get back to you soon. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.